so today's lesson is 2.3 and 2.4, the sine, the cosine, and the tangent ratios. And our goal is to use these three primary trigonometric ratios to solve for a missing side and to solve for a missing angle. So students tend to use this reminder, SOHCAHTOA, whenever they need to remember the trigonometric ratios, sine, cosine, and tangent. So on your calculators, these are the buttons you're going to see. You're going to see sine, cos, and tan, and they represent the ratios between the opposite and hypotenuse for sine, the adjacent and the hypotenuse for cos, and the opposite and the adjacent sides for tan. And I'll show you how they work. Okay, anytime you are solving a right triangle, based on the information you have to label your triangle, decide which ratio you should use, substitute the values, and then solve for missing values. When you are labeling your triangle, remember you have to label relative to a certain angle. So if I label relative to A, then A should be highlighted. The hypotenuse is always the same side. It's going to be the longest side in the triangle. The opposite side is labeled relative to the angle that you just mentioned. So there it is. And adjacent will be beside the angle you just mentioned. So when you look at SOHCAHTOA, and you talk about the opposite side will be length CB. When you look at the hypotenuse, it's going to be length AB. Or the adjacent will be AC. And similarly, we worked through this yesterday. If we were to highlight B instead, then the hypotenuse does not change, but the opposite side and the adjacent side switch places. Okay, and once again, reminder, SOHCAHTOA uses these abbreviations. So opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. If we're going to use SOHCAHTOA to find a missing side, then we start by labeling the triangle. So A, keep this way, A, B, C. And because B is the one that's highlighted, it's the one we know. When we label, the hypotenuse is the longest side, 5 is the opposite side. So this here, AC, is opposite. Okay, and the adjacent side is the one we don't know. So after you've labeled it, you need to look at what information you have or the information you need and decide which ratio to use. So in this question, we don't have the adjacent side, but we're looking for it. So we need to include the letter A for adjacent. So we're not going to use so because there's no letter A. Given in the problem, there's also this number, which is the opposite side value. So opposite and adjacent, that's O and A, we're looking for TOA, tan. We write out the statement for tan of an angle, in this case it's angle B, tan of angle B equals the opposite over the adjacent side. Okay, B can be replaced with 23 degrees, so tan 23. The opposite can be replaced with the number 5. And the adjacent is our variable. We don't know, so we put an X. What I think students should do, it helps them out, is put a 1 underneath on the left side, because tan 23, we practiced it yesterday, it's just a decimal value. It's a long number. So by putting it over 1, we haven't changed it. And now it's easy to see that to solve for X, you can use cross multiplication and division. So side X is equal to 5 times 1 divided by tan 23. On your calculator, you can type that in all at once, or what you might want to do is evaluate tan 23, so 5 times 1 is 5, divided by, and just keep in mind that when you evaluate tan 23, you're going to need to keep 4 decimal places for accuracy. So 0.4245. Okay, and then we divide. 5 divided by 0.4245, which is approximately 11.8 centimeters. For the second example, we start by labeling the triangle, and you'll notice the triangle's been switched around, it's flipped around in different direction. We can still label it, so we have A, B, C, and in this question the highlighted angle, the one we don't know, is A. So when we label, the hypotenuse is across from the right angle, but side A, or side opposite of A, will be over here. Okay, and the one beside A, or adjacent to A, is at the top. In this question, the given values are H, hypotenuse, and A, number 8, for adjacent. So we can choose AH right here. We can choose the cosine ratio. We write it out. Cosine of angle A equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Have that. Now it's time to replace values, substitute. A we don't know, so we can't substitute that. But we know the adjacent side is 8 centimeters, and we know the hypotenuse is 17 centimeters. And we also know that if we divide this ratio, 8 divided by 17, we have approximate value, rounded to 4 decimal places, of 0.4706. And that's still equal to the cosine of A. And the last step when you're trying to find an angle, you have to find the button that does the inverse of these trigonometric ratios. It has a -1, and when you type that, by pressing the inverse, it will give you the degree value. And you can round the degree to the nearest whole number, so 62 degrees approximately. So cosine inverse, look for the -1, of 0.4706 is approximately 62 degrees.